Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my shop. Welcome to my channel. My name's Keith and I'm your host. Come on in. Let's see what our next video is all about. Okay, before we put the spindle together and put it up into the quill, I wanted to set it up here on my two rollers. And I put a ball bearing and a stop here because you roll it this diameter and this diameter. This is smaller than this one here, and the bearing, the weight as you're spinning will want to travel, and you can't hold a thrust, but it plays into our advantage by rotating it in the one direction and having the thrust on the ball. Now this ball is pretty big because the hole for the spindle going through and the rod, the tensioning drawbar opening, so the weight of the ball actually kind of plays a little bit on our run out. But we are showing you right now that we are basically about a 1/4 thousandths run out on our surface where the collets meet up right there. Now I will be checking this again once it's installed to show you it running in place with the bearings mounted solid. Thrust and everything else will be 100%, and we're just going to compare it to what we actually have here now. I don't see anything drastically wrong, and for my work and everything else, I feel that this is going to spin up perfectly fine for the applications that I do in my machining. Now, there are shops that will set up and take the bearings and set up and grind your spindle 100% true, and it's a good thing to do. And we're going to actually see what we have here freely and what we have in place, so that you know that I just dropped this out to change out the bearings and I'm putting it back in. What we have here on the table and what we have installed, and how it ends up by just changing out the bearings with no grinding. All right, so I just kind of letting you know. Thanks Gary for the V-blocks once again. I brought them out just for this display right here, and I'm real happy with them. Thank you very much. Enjoying them. We're getting ready to assemble the spindle, and I think this is called the nose piece that's on here already. I will check a collet fit in here, make sure our pin is all fine before I get ready to start here. Now we need to line up our bearing positions, because we're also playing guinea pig here, because we are going to install a set of precision rubber lip seal bearings in here. Now these are Timkins, and the top bearing is going to be a German shielded bearing. The reason why I want to run this as a test, because with the open bearings and then having the oil and oiling it on a daily basis, that doesn't always happen. Let's be honest. The shielded bearing will still let oils go through, so we can put some in there and eventually it will make its way through here. But rinsing oil through this upper bearing and then down into the two that are doing the main thrust load doesn't make sense in one way. The other way, that oil just continually free flows through this thing and continually rinses it out, and when it exits, it actually it is in a retained area right here with the lock-in for the quill, and then it drains out through the two pinholes or spanner holes, and there's kind of a Lambert type of arrangement there, but that doesn't really do anything with channeling oil except for letting it come outside of there. All right, these are precision bearings. In fact, actually these have a special note. On the thrust face of each ring is a mark indicating a high point of radial eccentricity. Best result to obtain the bearings are mounted so that the high point of the inner and outer rings are aligned actually. Okay, so there is a little tiny dot here that's put in on these races. All right, and those are supposed to be aligned in rotation this way. All right, and there again, there's another dot, and it lines up with that one there. All right, now we want to, on this other pair, old pair, it actually had thrust written on here and thrust written in on here, and the two thrusts went together on the inside and the two thrusts went outward like that, and that's how those were set up in there. So I need to, these aren't marked thrusts. They do have the marks for the radial marking in alignment, and I can do that as well. I want to find out which side is thrust, and it actually just lay the bearing down on there, hold the center race, and if you can spin that, then you have the thrust side down. If you hold this and you can't turn this, then this is the thrust side. Okay, so that one's down, that's the thrust side, this is not. Okay, so thrust side, those go together just like that. Okay, you can rotate this one and that one's not rotating. If you had them in the opposite direction, they would both rotate because both of these thrusts are facing each other and both of these thrusts are opposing each other. They're going to do the same thing, but you want to make sure that you have them in that order when you're installing them. Okay, so these are going to go like this, and then the marks will rotate them like that. In between these two is the pair of sleeves. Goes in and out like that. Then we have another sleeve that comes on there. Then we're going to have the German bearing that I've chosen to be the upper one. This is shielded. It'll still let oil pass through it eventually. We're going to run that one there. Then we have our W lock nut and W nut that will go onto the shaft. And then above that, the new felt piece will be put in place once it's up in place, and that will be the stack up on the spindle right there. I got these two bearings on, slipped the sleeve on, put that bearing down there, and just had enough room to actually get my nut started here. And I'm just going to, by hand, run the nut down, and it's going to bring that bearing down and seat it, and then I can bring it back up and I can put the lock washer underneath there afterwards. Okay, that's tight there. That bearing's all the way down, and these bearings are right in there. This ring is going to be loose until these two thrusts right here are forced, and then that will come in, and that's the preload for the thrust on the bearing. All right, so now I can back this off. Okay, and we slide our locking nut in here, or locking washer in here. All right, now I'm going to go put this in the lathe, and I'm going to grab a hold of the nose here, put the tailstock in here, and then I'm going to tighten this up, and then I'll bend the tang up so that this will be locked in there. Then this will be ready to install into the quill of Buffy. Okay, we were thinking about putting a line on here so that we'd be able to line up here and here, but we decided to go ahead and put a little dot right there so we can enter the upper bearing with its line marked there, and then we'll follow through with the second bearing and we'll match that same position so that when it goes up in there we know that those two outer rings are in line with each other as recommended for the thrust. All right, we're going to use the quill and the lever here to press the bearings in there. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I'm going to add a little oil on this bearing here to start, just on the outside. What I'm trying to do is just coat a little bit of oil on here so that when it gets up into its size of the bore there, it's got lubrication around it. All right, and now I'm just going to take and I'm just coating the inside where this pair of bearings, or the main bearings, are going to go. And as long as I can see, those lines there through the oil, should be no problem. Okay, those will be ready. Now I'm going to stack a couple pieces of timber up here. I'm going to use that one and that one. I think that will get up close enough. Before we grab this one, we're going to get this started up in here. Now we'll bring this over here underneath here, and this one here as well. We're going to grab the upper stem here. And there's that line, and we're going to mark that line right with that. And this line here, hey, we like that. All right. Now we got the lock collar to go on. Now this has a dimple hole on it, and the hole is back here for the little set screw to go into. And I kind of marked that with I pre-mark it with a line right there so I can see it. I want to put a little bit of lubrication around on these threads. I don't necessarily think it needs never seize, but I am going to put some oil on it. Okay, and my spinner wrench here. All right, there's the line right there. And our spots in the back. All right, the line went a little bit past. All right, so we're probably going to have to put a slight bit of dimple in that. Spindle feels good. All right, we're going to tighten this up, and then we got to lock down that set screw. Okay, she's not moving anymore. I'm going to lock her right there. All right, we're going to get a little pilot drill for that dimple, and we're going to dimple that and put the screw in. And that actually completes the lower housing. The J-head lower housing is now completed, minus our travel dial that we want to put on here. Now we're ready to start assembling the back gear. Okay, we put the indicator in here while we're here, and I know that you're not close enough to read this, but I am reading the same half a thousandths or a little less in that taper of the R8 surface on the inside of the spindle. Okay, so we're going to continue assembling this, and the next time we check it will be after we give it a little bit of run time. We want it to run in, seat in, bearing seat in, and all of that, and then we'll come back before we actually put a collet in here and mill something. We'll double check or triple check. This is a double check here. Our run out on that taper. Okay, the next piece we're going to put up here is going to be the adapter from the lower housing to the upper housing, and this is where, in fact, you read and you see the factory people have got to assemble this part, and I'm going to show you why they say the factory people are supposed to assemble this. But we're putting some never sees on our studs and threads here, and then we're going to put some oil on our two surfaces that are going to mate, and then I'm going to get it up in there and get it situated, and then I'm going to bring you in close and I'm going to show you why you need to have a representative or a professional. I'm just going to go ahead and put the oil on the top here. It's a lot easier. And that's just because I don't want any surface to metal to rust up, so I put a light coat of oil in between them. All right, there we go. All right, and this goes on in this direction, just like that. Okay, see, this has a little bit of motion in it and moving around. There is no register. This has got 3 points of holding it. All right, but it does have registers that align the rest of the stack up to the J-head housing, the lower housing. So what you got to do is you got to set up an indicator on the spindle, and you're going to sweep the register up here on the top. And if you sweep that register up at the top and tighten these 3 screws or nuts down here, the castellated nuts, that's what I got to put on here next. All right, you align this, you tighten this, you put the cotter pins in there, and you're good to go. There is no rocket science to it, except for the fact that you need to indicate that so that this head stays in line with the lower spindle and register. Okay, I've swept this register all the way around, and I'm within a thousandth front and back, and about 1.5 thou side to side. I've tapped it several times. I'm satisfied with that right there. All right, I'm aligned up with the bottom, and I also ran around on the face right here, and I didn't see anything on the face, any you know, out of square on the face. All right, now we're going to take this off of here because we're ready to add in our next piece here. We got 3 springs to drop, and we got the gear cog that's going to go down and engage with that worm, and then we can put in the back gear lever right here. All right, the next piece goes in here is the shifter for back gear. And I'm putting plenty of oil all over this thing right here. And its port's got to line up. That gear's got to be on the back side there. And this also slides on that. So let's make sure we got plenty of oil around on that. Okay. There we go. Now, I don't know how we're going to tell. Okay, I can see how we're going to tell. Oh, we also noticed another thing. We don't have the next layer on here. This can't go in until the next piece goes on the top. All right, back when we took this apart, we ordered drive belts and the back gear belt. And the back gear belt, the one that came with our original order as a kit, was not the right belt. It was for a more modern drive. And anyway, our machine takes the 42 tooth cog belt, and this is original Bridgeport part right here, Bridgeport 2J-650-329, and you punch that in on the web, and you're gonna get this belt listed in many different places. Okay, I also knew that MSC had the belt in their catalog as well. Now MSC's listing was, I don't know, it was $100 and something for the belt. And on eBay, I saw one for $30 something. And of course I buy a lot of things on eBay because it's a lot cheaper and that. The thing is the shipping from the company that had the listing for it on eBay was taking forever, and I broke down and went ahead and got online with MSC and ordered. At the time I thought I was ordering a $100 and something belt, but they said yes, we have it in stock in Harrisburg and your cost is $30 something, exactly what I paid on eBay. So MSC's book there saying $100 and something, you can get your belts for like $30 on there. Now there's many manufacturers of this belt, so it's common and it's out there quite a bit. This is a Gates 30293 times 1 1/8. 1 1/8 is the width and 42 teeth is the cog on either of the belts here. The one from MSC actually says HQT 115, and kind of really doesn't make any sense, but it is exactly the same belt. Okay, so we're ready to put this part together. I wanted to put it together a week ago, and I got to the point and I go, oh yeah, remember you needed to well, there bites you again, but hey, it doesn't matter. I had plenty of work in here, so I went about doing some other things, the hand crank and a lot of other things that needed to be tuned up. I've got those tuned, so now we're getting ready to stack up our unit. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our eBay belt here, Gates, and even though they look exactly the same and all of that, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. We'll put that one in storage, and we're going to throw that one away. All right, so let's get this part up here, and this is going to be just a little tricky because we got to put the belt on the small pulley, lower it down over our greasy shaft, and then get this cog to fit in on this gear here. At the same time, we're going to slide these pieces together, and we've already got this pulley assembly all set and ready to go. So this part here will bolt down, and then we can start setting up the next level. I got the belt I got the belt on here. Let's see if we can get this over the spline here. And keep it up on that spline. Okay, there we go. Down in place. Looks like it's staying right on the right width of that gear right there, staying right on track. All right. That wasn't too terrible. All right, back gear feels good. That's in high direct drive. All right, here's some back gear. Everything is shifting fine, looking good. Of course, I'm turning the spindle, which is harder to do than turning this up here and watching this down here. Awesome. Okay, and there's neutral. All right, let's look at the drawing, see what goes on next. We put a little never sees on this piece here, and that's going to drop in right there. And that's the old one. This is the new T-pin. And the T-pin, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it through from the back side. And I'm going to need a pair of needle nose pliers to squeeze that together. Oh, we found our 1970s tool here. This will work fine. We're gonna have to tweak it a little bit here. Okay, let's come all the way through. We like that. And we'll just turn it a little sideways here. All right, now we're just gonna go ahead and take the cotter pin and we're gonna flip it over slightly there and lock it into place, and it's good to go. Okay, we push this down for right now. This cotter pin is spread on both sides. We've taken our next piece of housing. We've already put the adjustment in for the back side, retains the back side of this bearing assembly that pulls down the pressure on the belt. And we're going to insert that into that section there as we lower this down into place here. Okay, I'm going to stand up on the table here because I got to get my eyeballs right down in here. Okay, and that foot appears to be right down in place. Okay, the screw is too far down, so I got to bring it up. I got a screwdriver for that. Okay, yeah, it's letting things free up. All right, now we got to put the washer, and then we have a hairpin clip that we're going to push in underneath this washer, and that'll retain that adjustment. Okay, the hairpin clip is not going to work out. I'm going to need a cotter pin. Yeah, these bolts are 3/8 by 1. And sorry I didn't have my sound on there. I'll have to ad-lib that. Okay, I'm going to grab another 9/16 wrench here. These could have been socket heads. That other wrench had special jaws and it likes to dig into new fasteners, so. Okay, for right now, we'll just put those in there. That'll be great. All right, there we are. Be mounting up the motor switch, and then up here on the top, we have a bearing carrier plate right here. And then we can drop the drawbar in there. All right, now let's go ahead and loosen these screws here. I can see the spring opening up inside there. We're just careful we're not undoing the all threads at the same time. Starting to pick up the belt. Okay, we're off of the studs. All right, we'll see what we're rubbing. We don't know yet what we're rubbing. Okay, we are completely off of that. Okay, I'm going to get my flashlight so I can look down in there. And it might be just part of the adjustment right now. Probably that screw's got to come up right now. So I'm going to bring that up. The adjustment on our hand crank, because we're not even grabbing it yet. So okay, we're not even rubbing there now. Okay, that was it. The cotter pin was just rubbing just a little bit. All right. Okay. All right. We don't know where our adjustment's going to be yet. We'll just tension it down right there. We can't crank this until we've got it running. Okay, and we are in neutral. And now we're in high, which is direct drive. Woohoo! Okay, the last piece that goes on, this goes over the end of the spindle, and then the drawbar slides down inside there. So this is the cap and the bearing for the top of the shaft. This is the last new bearing. There's a spring, spiral spring in there. So this bearing should fit in there. There it is. Okay, it's spring loaded, just like that. All right, little never sees on our screws right here. That'll draw it down in on the register. There's 3 jacking screws right here. These 3 jacking screws are also used sometimes to bolt on the auto quill, the one that pneumatically tightens and loosens the drawbar. And we may incorporate that. We don't know. Right now, we're just going to get it mounted up there. All right. A little never sees, and we'll draw that down in there. Okay, just had to get it started on that shaft. There we go. Pretty snug fit in there. We have to see if we can find our drawbar for this thing. Okay. Okay, I can feel that. Awesome. Okay, we got the plate over here that's got to go over the end of the motor. I didn't grab the right screws. Okay, 1024s it is. Those go in a lot easier. All right, let's go hunt down that drawbar. Drop the drawbar. Few more labels to put on here.